Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Todd, and I have the pleasure of serving as the chairman of the board of the National MPS Society. I'm so excited to welcome you here today to enjoy the National MPS Society's annual family conference. Although, of course, we had hoped to be in person, that was not meant to be this year, but we have put together a really wonderful program for you over the next couple of weekends. And the beauty of the online platform is that we're able to reach so many of you all over the country as well as worldwide, which we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Every time I attend our conferences, I feel so blessed to be a part of this amazing community. My cup is always so full. And even though we're here virtually, I still feel that amazing sense of gratitude. This month marks the 10th anniversary of my son Jack's MPS II diagnosis and 10 years since I attended my very first conference. It was just a few weeks after his diagnosis. It was a time of extreme grief, but this community was there for our family to walk through the grief with us side by side. Wow, this is such a priceless gift to receive. A few weeks ago, we watched my son Jack receive his high school diploma, something doctors once told us exactly 10 years ago that it would not happen. But nonetheless, it did happen, and our hope for his future is bright. The last 10 years in this community has brought many, many gifts to my life. It's important for me to also reflect that over these last 10 years, I bore witness to the loss of too many beautiful souls with MPS and ML. And that, of course, has been very difficult. But I've also witnessed true hope, grace, and perseverance by so many in our community. I have witnessed beauty and blessings that I could have never imagined, all of that born out of this diagnosis. For those of you here new to our community and our conference, welcome. I am so very glad to have you here today and over the next couple of weekends. And I know that you'll find hope along with extremely valuable information during our conference sessions. We have truly a world-class lineup for you at the conference, and you'll have lots of opportunities to ask questions, to learn about new treatment options, emerging research, and to spend time chatting, even if it's virtually with friends. We're so very blessed to be joined by so many stakeholders and support of our amazing sponsors, our clinicians, and our researchers. This is such a truly wonderful opportunity for our families to have access to all the information from those individuals. I want to give a huge shout out also and thank you to our society staff and the conference committee for pulling this program together. It has truly been a labor of love, a ton of work as it always is, and without their dedication and hard work, we would not be able to put this on for you over the next few weekends. So again, I want to just thank that entire group so much. Again, everyone, enjoy the conference this year. I can't wait to be able to hug all of you in person next year in Nashville. And I know that you will gain so much insight and information in this setting. And again, I encourage you all to interact and chat, even though it's a virtual conference. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terri Klein, our president and CEO, to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to welcome you to the 35th Family and Science Conference. I'm Terri Klein, the President and CEO at the National MPS Society. I'm the mother of 4 children. Our youngest, Jennifer, many of you have met, who was diagnosed 20 years ago. She's doing quite well, and she's currently a scientist working for a gene therapy company in the discovery of treatments for rare diseases. This has been an unexpected 18 months How could the world have ever imagined that on March 1st last year, we would not only walk the difficult journey of MPS and ML, but in addition, we would need to learn how to navigate the most tragic health pandemic of our lifetime. Each one of us has been impacted by the loss and the devastation of the pandemic, and we are still trying to figure out how to take care of our loved ones and help them manage their difficult disorders. This year, serving our patient community, we listened and we heard you. We have walked with you through these difficult months. The Society strategized and pivoted our programs to deliver family assistance remotely and ensure resources remained available for those in need. We are amazed and grateful to the researchers, the scientists, the physicians, and industry that have shown all of us to not rest on our laurels, that science must move forward, and care and treatments must be delivered to children and adults with MPS. How can we ever say thank you from all of our families to you for continuing to bring us hope? We had no roadmap for the pandemic at the Society, but we learned from our patient community and other foundations just how much stronger we are when we work together. Our shared resources are not just on a national level, but we have been working with MPS societies around the world to serve an unmet need. 2020 became a year focused on updating our educational materials, and we welcome you to visit our website and download the newest syndrome booklet resources and fact sheets. We have already given global permissions for organizations to translate these materials in their native language. And so here we are, the 35th Annual Family Conference in a virtual environment, a reminder that the Society too will not rest on their laurels. There are so many highlights to this conference, as Lisa had shared. Look around the platform, visit the booths from our sponsors and the Society working committees. Consider giving your time and work side by side with us, because you are always welcomed and we need you. This is an inaugural year, as we will be delivering dual tracks for science and family sessions. We're fortunate that Dr. Matthew Allenwood joined our team and has expanded the research program for MPS and ML. Industry and clinical trial updates will take place next weekend on Saturday, June 26th. And finally, we are devoting all of the conference syndrome to specific syndrome breakout sessions on Sunday during the family conference session. And if that's not enough, our conference planners once again put together a Camp Courage virtual agenda that will surely attract more than the children to this fun-filled under-the-sea adventure. I'm honored to welcome more than 540 attendees to this conference so far, and I'm sure that number is going to grow. 75 children have enrolled in Camp Courage, and we are representing an amazing 19 countries at this conference. Thank you to all of our sponsors that provided the resources to make this conference possible. Till we see each other again in person next year in Nashville, Tennessee, we do hope that you will remain safe and well. I'll now give this session back to Lisa Todd, our chair, who will introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Terri. I'm going to get us started today by introducing our first keynote speaker. And I mentioned when I spoke a few minutes ago about the hope and beauty that I've seen in our community. And this next speaker is a testament to that for sure. I had the pleasure of spending a little time with her in our last in-person advocacy trip in Washington, D.C., and she is truly inspiring. So I'm so excited that she's here to do our keynote today. So a little bit about Mercedes Ramirez Johnson. In 1995, Mercedes Ramirez Johnson narrowly survived a commercial airplane crash that killed 160 people, including her parents. This tragic event changed the trajectory of her life, and her career catapulted her into sharing her experiences of survival and resilience as a professional speaker. Before becoming a speaker, Mercedes spent nearly a decade in high-level sales in the pharmaceutical and medical software industries. As a mother of 4 boys, that's amazing. Her youngest set of twin boys, Dorian and Wynn, were born with ML2. Her journey of being a parent of a rare pediatric disease community inspired her to make a difference for medically fragile children. She's an active leader in philanthropic organizations advocating for children and children's health initiatives, notably for the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the National MPS Society. Mercedes and her children live in the Dallas area. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mercedes.
All right, thank you all so much for having me join you today at the MPS Family Conference. It's definitely my pleasure to be here and to share with you my journey with MPS and ML and how it has made me a more driven parent, a more focused parent, and it made me really find more meaning and more fulfillment, not just for my own life, but to make sure that my children, all of my children, my ML children and my other two children had the most fulfilling, most exciting life that they could possibly have. And so I'm glad and thankful that we're all here together today. And what led me to have this drive and what led me to lead with my heart and my mind was the toughness and the resilience that being an ML2 parent gave me, and it was truly a gift. And that toughness came on December 20th, 1995, from this incident that I survived when on my 21st birthday, my parents and I were headed to Colombia, South America, to visit my father's side of the family for the holidays. And unfortunately, less than 15 minutes before landing, the crane crashed into the side of a mountain, instantly killing 160 of the 164 passengers and crew that were on that flight. And when I went through this incident, little did I know that it would not be my only life affirming and life-altering incident that I would go through in my life. When I woke up the next morning after surviving this plane crash, I had no recollection of what had happened the night before. I was on board with my mom, I was on board with my dad, and when I woke up, I had no idea that they had even perished. I didn't actually find that out until I was airlifted to the hospital, where the media broke the news to me that my parents had been found dead. And at the ripe old age of 21, this incident, this tragic plane crash completely turned my world upside down, because my parents were my biggest supporters. They were my best friends, and the thought of moving on and living without them felt just unsurmountable for me. And as one of only 4 survivors, it gave me a sense of responsibility that, you know, there's 160 people who are on that flight who didn't get a second chance at life. And for whatever reason, I did. And so that responsibility became a responsibility full of love and of a sense of giving, because I felt like I needed to live a life worth living, not just for myself, but for everybody else who didn't get a second chance at life that day. And I was in the ICU for nearly 3 months, recovering from all my different injuries and the surgeries that I went through to be able to survive. And even though losing my parents was a huge adjustment and a huge grieving period that I went through, in many ways, going through that, I would not wish it on my worst enemy, but going through surviving this plane crash and learning how to walk again and learning how to live without the love and support of my parents, toughened me up. It forced me to grow up overnight, and it forced me to realize how precious life was. And in many ways, I think it was like a primer for me to build my resilience muscle so that when I received the diagnosis of my little boys, Dorian and Wynn, being born with a terminal illness, it was almost like the universe and God were preparing me for what my life had in store for me. And so the reason I'm here today is not just to tell you and share with you my story of having children with ML2, but really what a tremendous blessing it is. And it's a journey that we didn't specifically sign up for, but it's a journey and it's a family that we have all come together to become as one. Because even though our journeys are slightly different, we that are sharing this time together are pretty much the only people on the planet who really get what we go through, that get the things that keep us up at night when we're caring for or worrying about our family members who are going through the battle of a lifetime. And so what I want you to walk away with is knowing and realizing that it truly is a blessing, that when life gives us these curveballs, these detours, how we handle it is really up to us. And an important part of how we handle it is the community and the support systems that we make and create for ourselves. Sometimes those support systems are already built in, like friends and neighbors and people in our family. And other times it's a community that we build ourselves, that we go out of our way to find like-minded, supportive people to help us in these journeys that we go through. And last but not least, it's about the gift of taking action. One of the biggest things that really sidelined me when I first received the diagnosis of my children was, well, what can I do? What can we do as a family to make anything better if possible? And there are things that we can actually do. We may not be able to just snap our fingers and create a cure, but we can create awareness, we can create empathy, and we can get the right people lined up with the right resources so that these journeys can be as smooth and as graceful as possible. And so my journey was my big detour, just like my plane crash, where you think you're headed in the right direction, you think life is going good, and for some reason, for things that are beyond your control, beyond your fault, you go way off course, right? And that's how my plane crash was because the pilots who were flying my plane accidentally entered in the wrong code into the flight navigational system. And so they didn't even realize that they did that until the alarm system started to go off in the cockpit. And just like with my two children, that when they were diagnosed, when we received the diagnosis of Dorian and Wynn, it took about 6 weeks for us to get to a diagnosis. And at that time, we thought we had, as mother and father, we thought we had all our ducks in a row. We had two older sons who were in preschool at the time, twins, who were perfectly healthy athletes, squirmy, energetic, nonstop energy. And then we have Dorian and Wynn, and our world is completely just thrown off course, because all these hopes and all these dreams that we had for our two new little guys, we had to kind of readjust what our dreams and our expectations were going to be for them, because they weren't going to be the quarterbacks of their high school football teams. They weren't probably going to grow up to be the president and vice president of the United States, but we readjusted to truly value all the little milestones that they bravely would be able to accomplish in their shortened lifespan. And with our love of friends and family, and through the love that they gave us, the unconditional love that these two little superstars gave us, it taught us how to truly appreciate the little things, because the little things for these guys were huge things. maybe they were small little milestones in the eyes of the quote unquote normal world, but for us, every little new word that they can say, every little new expression that they could make, and every little new milestone that they could do with rolling over or scooting around on the floor, that was our those were our touchdowns. Those were our student council wins, and those were our state championships for these guys, because we knew that that was their way of making a way in the world for themselves alongside each other. And so I'm very proud of the fact that not only did it make me and my son's father better people in the process, but I think it also made my older sons, who at the time when they were born were in preschool, it made them more empathetic to the world around them. It made them realize that the world didn't revolve around them, that they also had little brothers that we all had the privilege to take care of. And it just made them more aware of just self-awareness. And self-awareness is an amazing gift to give to children, because sometimes it doesn't come about until much later in life. And so I'm very proud of how, not only how Dorian and Wynn managed and fought and bravely lived their lives, but it also made their older brothers, Ben and Alex, braver and stronger and more loving in the process. And so these detours, the day that I received the diagnosis that Dorian and Wynn had ML2, I would not have told you on that day that, whoa, this is a blessing. I'm so lucky to be entrusted with two fragile little babies. No, that day, it was a day of darkness, a day of tears. But with time and with perspective, I have grown to appreciate the fact that I was entrusted to be, the universe and the Lord somehow thought that I was strong enough to be their mommy, that I was brave enough to be able to stand up for them, and that I would have a voice loud enough to advocate for them. And that's just like all of you, is that you have been, for whatever reason, you've been entrusted by the universe to be strong enough and brave enough and loud enough to live with MPS ML, or to have a son or a daughter or a sibling with MPS and ML. And that's an incredible blessing if we actually choose to see it that way. And I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I was in a sorority. It was a group that I chose to be in. It was a community of fun and service. And many of those people I'm still friends with, very close friends with, like godmothers to their children to this day. Now the MPS family, that's another, I'd like to think that we too are a fraternity of mismatched people from all around the country. A lot of us probably share a whole lot of nothing in common, but what we do share is this journey of living with or caring for someone with MPS ML. And we didn't intentionally sign up for it. There wasn't a sign-up sheet at the beginning of the year when we receive these diagnoses. But once we're in it for life. Because even though my little boys have already passed away, Dorian passed away when he was 10, which was 3 years ago, and then Winnie passed away when he was 6. So that was about seven or so years ago. You got me for life. If you go to a MPS Society workshop or conference call, more than likely I'm going to be lurking in the background, because it has grown to be a part of my life to be a part of this community and to celebrate and relish this community, because it was very, very helpful for me at the very beginning stages of newly being diagnosed, all the way through, still to this day, even though my ML2 warriors are gone, and there's still that love for this community. Another aspect of that, though, is that through all of this, my family grew like an extended family with all of our healthcare providers and social workers and physical therapists and special education teachers that worked with our two little guys, because as I've said a million times before, it's nothing that you intentionally have chosen to go into this world of living with a rare disease or being a parent with a child that has a rare disease. But once you're in it, it's amazing how it opens up your world. And so to this day, many of the home health nurses that worked in our home to help us take care of the babies, to this day, I still invite them over for Christmas and Easter and all kinds of different holidays. Mother's Day, I always send them texts and phone calls, because they helped me be a mom. There's no way I could have been the mom that I was to my 4 boys if it weren't for the love and the support and the physical help of the medical community. And I'm just fortunate enough to live in Texas, where we got into this little loophole program where we were able to qualify for almost around the clock home health nursing. So that made my life and the life of all of my children so much more manageable and easier. And saying thank you to a nurse just doesn't quite seem to cut it, because they made me the best mom that I could possibly be. So even in the medical community, a lot of those people I still consider like family, because they literally were like family, like in my home, here on holidays, and they're still a part of our lives, of our older sons' lives, and I love them all truly. But aside from that, when you are living with a rare disease, or you're parenting or caretaking for someone with a rare disease, you also see the other side of community. You see who truly is your friend. You get all kinds of thoughts and prayers, messages, but it's those friends who would drop by with a gift certificate to Pizza Hut, or the friends who would just randomly send flowers for no reason, or the people who would pay for our meal if we'd go out as a family, as a restaurant, and someone would secretly pay for our meal in the restaurant, and we would be looking around kind of like, thank you so much. And so then it became like a contest to our family, because our older sons would be like, whose meal are we going to pay for? Like, we got to do it for somebody else, because that's so cool, and it's just all part of the lessons of what makes us different, is really what makes us awesome. And that's what our babies, Dory and Wynn, taught us, is that maybe we weren't as connected to our family members, maybe we weren't as connected to our neighbors and our communities as we should have been, and they lovingly forced us and encouraged us to do so. And even though my little guys are gone, those connections and those relationships and those loyalties that were formed when they were still alive are still very present and are still very alive to this day. And so I'm very, very thankful to the people who showed their true colors, their true beautiful colors when we were going through this journey with our warrior babies, because it has just inspired me to be that type of friend to others, because I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end. And sometimes you just have to have your eyes open enough to actually see those blessings and receive those blessings, so that you can in turn enjoy it, absorb it, manifest it, and then turn it around and give it right back to others, because it just makes the world a better place. And one of the most unexpected gifts that Dory and Winnie gave me and our little family was that it turned us into advocates. I mean, never in a million years would I have thought that I would be going to Washington, D.C. every year, meeting with lawmakers and their staffers to talk about important things. I mean, never in a million years did I see myself as a political person or as a mover and a shaker, but thankfully with the partnerships that the National NPS Society has with other nonprofit organizations, such as the RDLA and NORD, there's just a wealth of information out there that you can do. And one of the main points that I've been helping advocate for these past 3 or 4 years, I believe, is for newborn screenings. And I never would have met any of these amazing people if it weren't for that. I do have a background in pharmaceutical sales professionally, so I had been accustomed to reading things like medical science studies and learning how to discuss that with doctors back in my former life. But when it's something that is near and dear to you, it's amazing how you can get out of your comfort zone and just have a heart-to-heart, one-on-one talk with people about what your journey has been and how things like newborn screenings could actually help not just your own child, but how it could potentially help so many other children in the community. And so, of course, this past year and a half, our advocacy has been focused in a virtual format. But, I'll put some pictures on here to show you guys that, us on the advocacy committee, we share one thing in common, and that's our NPS ML journey. And that's really half of what we do is just sharing our journey as constituents to our lawmakers and letting them realize that what we go through and the access to healthcare and the things like newborn screening not only helps our children, but it helps every single other child in our state. And so this is just some pictures of some of the amazing people that are on the advocacy team as volunteers. And with newborn screenings, it's been one of those things where I have heard firsthand stories of other NPS families where their first child wasn't diagnosed until 1.5 or 2 years after they were born, once they started to miss milestones and when they're first born, the doctors think that the child is perfectly healthy, and it's not until they start to get closer to those toddler years where they start really missing, slowing down in their development, to where then that's when treatments can get started. And so with newborn screenings, here's a map of the United States where you can see some states have as many as 35 conditions that a newborn baby can be automatically tested for as soon, within minutes of being born. And as many of us here on this call know, is that the sooner our children can get a diagnosis, the sooner they can be treated. With all of these conditions that are under the NPS ML umbrella, there's not so much as really a cure per se, but there are many, many treatments that can make a difference between a child who is diagnosed at 2 years old, never being able to feed themselves or walk, versus a child who is diagnosed within the first few weeks or months of life, to where it makes the difference between them being able to feed themselves and them being able to sit up on their own and walk and be much more communicative, and not have so much the damage that is incurred when we wait and wait and wait for the diagnosis of our children. And then we have many families within the MPS community where their first child, it was a surprise. They had no idea that their child had any sort of MPS condition until a year or two after they were born. And then their siblings, who were immediately diagnosed and immediately started to receive enzyme replacement therapy and things of that nature. The difference is just night and day between those children. Why? Because they were able to get that diagnosis as soon and as quickly as possible. And so that's what drives me, and that makes me very passionate and riled up and exciting about sharing this with lawmakers, is because, wow, if you can give your child that gift of independence, if you can give your child that gift of not having as much neurological damage and not incurring as many intellectual delays, if you can give your child that gift, what an amazing gift that is, not just for your own child, but for the hundreds and hundreds of children that are born each and every day in our communities. And so if you can see your state there, the states that are on the lighter side definitely need more work. And that's where you guys all come in, is that you do not have to have a background in political policy. You do not have to have a background as a professional speaker or as someone who like a former drug rep like me, who was taught to read scientific studies and things like that. You don't have to have a background of that at all. All you need to do is to have a heart to speak on behalf of children, not just your children, but the countless children that will continue to be diagnosed and that will continue to be welcomed into our MPS family, and the many other children that will continue to be born with different rare pediatric diseases. And that's the great thing about it, is that when you serve on the advocacy committee, the National MPS Society will give you all the talking points, they'll give you all the materials, all the training. We do role playing with each other where we practice with one another. And yes, the first time you do it, it's going to be scary, or you're going to feel scared right before you get on the phone with that lawmaker or get on the Zoom call with that lawmaker's assistant. But when you're halfway through it, you're like, this is just like a regular conversation with a regular person. And all I'm doing is sharing my information about my journey with NPS and how newborn screenings and telehealth and having those type of things funded and passed on behalf of our children. It just becomes like you're just telling a story to somebody who you're in an elevator with or something. And so if you've ever been on the fence about joining our advocacy arm, please do, because it's rewarding, it's fun. And as a parent, when I felt like, oh, there's absolutely, what can I possibly do to help my babies? What can I possibly do besides, there's always, you can raise money to help fund for research and to help increase awareness. But when it comes to actually having people pass legislation on behalf of our kids, I mean, it's a very, you feel like, yes, I'm a power broker. I made things happen today. And all you did was just share the story of your journey with MPS ML. And the more personable you are with your lawmakers, the more of a chance that you have of actually making change happen. So please don't be shy about learning more about being an official advocate for the National MPS Society, because you'll be helping so many people and so many families in the process. So I just want to issue a little challenge for you. I just want to strike a little deal, and I just want to challenge you to do something that you think is going to be darn near impossible, that you think is going to be really hard, like something that maybe you may not have ever thought of daring to do, right? Whether that be being an advocate, and being an advocate it manifests itself in so many ways. Maybe you don't want to one-on-one talk with the lawmakers, but you know what? I bet you can generate a ton of letters through the different tools that the National NPS Society can give you to send to different lawmakers. You don't have to pick up the phone and talk to anybody if that's not your thing. It's just about connecting the right information with the right people. And so I dare you to step outside your comfort zone for the sake of our NPS community. And I dare you to have your eyes wide open enough to see all the hidden blessings that these detours of NPS and ML throw in our way, in our lives, to see them as blessings, to see it as armor that you can put on each and every day, and to see that it gives you a bigger purpose of maybe of how you're feeling or what you're doing now, that you are part of an amazing family, of an amazing community of people who have learned the hard way to be resilient. They've learned the hard way to speak up for their loved ones, and they've learned the hard way that life is incredibly precious, and anything that we can do within our power to make the quality of life better, anything that we can do within our power to provide the right resources and provide the right educational materials, anything that we can do with the gifts that we have been given will make it that much more worth it. So when you think of yourself, why did I get this diagnosis? Why, out of all the families in the world, why me? Like, why me, or why my child, or why our family? This is your why, is because you've been given the power and the tools and the heart to serve others. And so it would be my honor if I could serve along with you. So let's please keep in touch. Let's please keep on fighting and advocating for our fellow NPS and ML family members. And let's continue to be a community. And please stay in contact with me if you would like more information about how my ML journey with my children was, or more about the advocacy committee. Please reach out to me. And so thank you all so much for allowing me to share this little snippet of time with you. I wish you well. I wish that 2021 brings you many blessings and much joy. And I hope that our paths will continue to cross in the future. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mercedes, for sharing your story and your message for all of us. You're an inspiring individual and mother. I'm so honored to call you a friend. So many important messages about the community and finding support and thinking about building your resistance and basically taking control of this unexpected journey. And I think the resounding message that I heard was that we don't have to wait till life isn't hard anymore to be happy and to find joy. So thank you for that. I want to share with all of you that our next session begins at the top of the hour with Dr. Joseph Munzer. It'll be followed by a question and answer session. So right now, take the time to go back into our lobby, visit our sponsor booth, stop by the NPS Society committee booths, and take a look at your briefcase. We have put some items into your briefcase for you. There is the program book, the wonderful program book where you can see all of the presenters and the agenda, and take a look at those abstracts in depth. And then when it's time to return, go back to the auditorium at the top of the hour and look at the agenda screen, and you can just click join the session. Thank you once again. Look forward to seeing you over the next 2 weekends.